Persian Gulf War was an armed conflict between Iraq and a 42-country coalition led by the United States. There were two parts to the Persian Gulf War: Operation Desert Storm and Operation Desert Shield. The Persian Gulf War, also known as Operation Desert Storm, or the First Gulf War, began in 1991 after President Saddam Hussein of Iraq ordered the invasion and occupation of neighboring Kuwait in early August 1990. Alarmed by these actions, Arab powers such as Saudi Arabia and Egypt called the United States and other Western nations to intervene. Hussein defied the United Nations Security Council's demands to withdraw from Kuwait by mid-January 1991, and Operation Desert Storm began with a massive U.S.-led air offensive. After 42 days of relentless attacks, U.S. President George Bush declared a ceasefire on February 28th. By that time, most Iraqi forces in Kuwait had either surrendered or fled.
Is actual footage from General Cody's mission, the very first Apache strikes of Desert Storm.
When we pulled the trigger, all 4 aircraft shot at the same time. You got 4 to 6 Hellfires en route. The time of flight's about 12 seconds. And then all of a sudden they start hitting.
Within moments, the surrounding area looked like a war zone. A third of the building had been reduced to rubble, with many floors flattened like pancakes. Dozens of cars were incinerated, and more than 300 nearby buildings were damaged or destroyed. The human toll was still more devastating. 168 souls were lost, including 19 children, with several hundred more injured. It was the worst act of homegrown terrorism in the nation's history. The Oklahoma City bombing, April 19th, 1995.
After the Oklahoma City bombing, the FBI has released security tape showing the chaos that followed. Take a look at the video we just got into our newsroom. The silent recordings show people rushing from nearby buildings after the bomb went off. They don't show the actual explosion outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. The tapes were obtained by an attorney and provided to the Oklahoman. Now, some of the images were used as evidence at bomber Timothy McVeigh's trial. McVeigh was executed in 2001. Co-conspirator Terry Nichols is serving life in prison.
The Columbine shooting of April 20th, 1999. This event happened at Columbine High School in Milton, Colorado. This was when 2 teens were on a killing spree, killing 13 people and wounding 20, before turning their guns on themselves and committing suicide. At the time, the Columbine shooting was the worst in history. This event prompted a national debate on gun control and school safety, as well as major investigation to determine what motivated the gunmen Eric Harris, 18, and Dylan Klebold, 17. The gunmen had been involved in a group called the Trenchcoat Mafia within the school. This is what prompted them to wear the trench coats during the shooting. Subsequent school shootings, including at Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut, Major Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, Robb Elementary School in Olvay, Texas, continue to raise questions about school safety and gun control in the United States. In the aftermath of the shooting, many schools across America enacted zero-tolerance rules regarding disruptive behavior and threats of violence from students. Through journals left behind by Harris and Klebold, investigators eventually discovered that the teens had been planning for a year to bomb the school in an attack similar to the 1955 Oklahoma City bombing. Columbine High School reopened in the fall of 1999, but the massacre left a scar on the Littleton community.
The two gunmen who went on the rampage booby-trapped the building and even themselves. All day long, investigators have searched the homes of both teenage killers. In one of them, police say they found bomb-making materials. Specially trained officers searching the school today found close to 30 explosive devices all around the building. Authorities have also revised the death toll, now saying 15 people were killed, including the two gunmen. Most of the bodies are still inside the school, but families of the murder victims have been notified.
On March 3, 1991, Rodney King and a few others were driving in his car on Interstate 210 in Los Angeles, California after a night of drinking. A cop car turned on their lights behind him after he sped at 117 miles an hour. After fleeing from the police, he stopped out and was ordered to get out of the car. And when he got out, he waved at the helicopter overhead and grabbed his butt. Doing this set off the officer pursuing him, and she drew her gun and ordered him to the ground. King was beat by 4 officers on the scene on the grounds that he was reaching for a weapon. Most of this was captured on George Holliday's Sony Handycam. George, a nearby resident, saw the scene and rushed to grab his camera to record from the balcony. King allegedly suffered 11 skull fractures, permanent brain damage, broken bones and teeth, kidney failure, emotional and physical trauma. At the trial, 3 of the 4 officers were acquitted of assault and use of excessive force due to the officers testifying that they tried to physically restrain King before the starting point of the videotape. This was thought to be the end of a tragic story of prejudice and abuse. However, mere hours after the jury's verdict, thousands of people gathered around LA in anger for the injustice and rioted for 6 days. Over those 6 days, over 10,000 armed first responders were deployed in response to the uprising. 63 people were killed, over 2,000 people injured, more than 12,000 people arrested, and property damages were estimated to well over $1 billion. Most of these damages being in Koreatown. Much of the blame for the extensive damage and violence was attributed to Los Angeles Chief of Police Daryl Gates, who has already produced his resignation by the time the riots were over.
You're just a regular citizen who got caught in something that no one could have ever predicted would have the kind of impact on history. I mean, you didn't want to be a part of history.
No, I wasn't expecting to get tossed in history like that. You know, unfortunately, it happens to us unexpectedly to some of us, and I was one of the unexpected ones to survive through it. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm so happy that it happened to me in this country, in America, because had I been anywhere else, I probably would have been dead, or hush hush. I wouldn't have ever been able to put out a book, in a lot of cases, because just the way race relations work,
Well, this is the Rodney King I know. You're so forgiving and you're so thoughtful and you're so. It's hard to imagine you don't harbor resentments and anger, and I think everyone expects you to have them. And I've never been able to drag them out of you very much. I mean, I remember we go back to that night. There are a couple of things that, as you've described it to me, stay with me. One is really how bad the beating was. That video does not really reflect how bad it was.
Former NFL player O.J. Simpson's wife and her friend were stabbed to death on the night of June 12, 1994. O.J. Simpson became the prime suspect, and rather than surrendering, he attempted to escape. Eventually, Simpson was arrested at his house in Brentwood, California. On July 22, 1994, O.J. was arraigned, entering a plea not guilty in the trial. Prosecutors provided DNA evidence using a black glove found at his home. The other glove found at his wife's house. They had Simpson try on the glove to see if it would fit, but it didn't. Prosecutors claimed it didn't fit because he hadn't been using his arthritis medicine, making his hand swell up. However, Simpson's doctor shot that claim down, saying he had. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. This is what O.J.'s response was to what had just taken place. Reaching out to people worldwide, this became one of the most famous quotes ever.
Can we ask him to straighten his fingers and extend them into the glove as one normally might put a glove on?
I object to this statements by counsel.
All right, he appears to have pulled the gloves on, counsel.
All right, would you show that to the jury, Mr. Simpson, in that manner? Thank you.
In November of 1995, President Bill Clinton began an extramarital affair with a young woman named Monica Lewinsky, a 21-year-old intern. She was later transferred to the Pentagon in 1996. It was there she confided in co-worker Linda Tripp about her relationship with the president. Without Lewinsky's knowledge, Tripp began to record their conversations and had foolproof evidence on the matter. After a charge of sexual harassment after an interaction between the President Clinton and Paula Jones, Jones's lawyers called Monica Lewinsky to the stand, where she denied ever having a sexual relationship with him. Later on, the FBI used Linda Tripp in a sting operation where she was wired up while talking about the president with Monica, where she soon confessed to FBI agents and U.S. attorneys while in a hotel. After news broke, Clinton vehemently denied the accusations, with probably his most famous quote, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." In late July, he admitted to court that he had an extramarital affair with Lewinsky, and later in September, the Starr report outlined a case for impeaching Clinton on 11 grounds, including perjury, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and abuse of power. Finally, on December 19th, the House Judiciary Committee impeached him. A prosecuting party to remove the president needs 2/3 majority to pass, and both Clinton's articles were acquitted as he had 50-50 splits. Clinton would remain president until 2000, where he would see his successor take his place in George W. Bush.
Black Hawk Down was a part of Operation Gothic Serpent. The raid, originally scheduled to last 1 hour, turned into an all-night standoff and rescue operation that dragged on into the next day. During the operation, Somali forces armed with RPG-7s shot down 2 American Sikorsky UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters. A desperate defense of the downed helicopters began as more American troops were sent in to protect survivors of the crashes. After this, the U.S. withdrew all troops, worrying it would end up like Vietnam.
"60 Minutes" was able to obtain this surveillance video, which has not been seen publicly until now. Here you can see the very beginning of the mission. Houghton was flown in on one of these Little Bird helicopters to the target building, which was quickly enveloped in clouds of dust. Then, from this rooftop, with his men under fire, Houghton watched as the lead Black Hawk Super 6-1 headed towards him. This is Super 6-1 moments after it was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade, spinning out of control before it's torn apart on impact.
They'd shot down a Black Hawk, this powerful symbol of America's might. For the men on the ground here, it was the moment that changed everything.
The dark figure you can just make out standing on the corner is 25-year-old Staff Sergeant Dan Bush, as he defended Super 6-1 against swarming enemy fighters. He would soon be dead. Norm Houghton says he and his men were doing everything they could to get to the crash site that was in danger of being overwhelmed. In the midst of this intense fight, they faced a nearly impossible task: to free the body of one of the pilots pinned in the wreckage.
The United States was hosting the Olympic Games in Atlanta, Georgia on July 27, 1996. While people were gathered in Centennial Olympic Park, a 911 call came in threatening to bomb the park. One of the security guards, Richard Jewell, located the backpack containing the pipe bomb. He alerted the General Bureau of Investigation and began an evacuation before the explosion at 1:20 a.m. Thanks to his quick thinking, only one person, Alice Hawthorne, was killed in the blast, a photojournalist. Malay Nzuyelo experienced a heart attack and also died. 111 people were injured during the blast. Done. Barry Bonds won his first MVP award in 1990, hitting .301 with 33 home runs, 114 RBIs. He also stole 52 bases to be third in the league, to become his first-time 30-30 club member. He won a Gold Glove award and the Silver Slugger.
In 1995, 1 gallon of gas was $1.22.
Me personally, I believe LeBron is running through the game right now, and we're done with the 90s.
What you know about Jordan? He retired, went to baseball, came back. He still dominated the league. 6 NBA titles, 2 three-peats, and was Finals MVP every time.
And on top of that, we had people like Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and Shaq drafted all in the 90s alone. And it was the most defensive era of the league.
Who was top scorer of all time?
Let's fact check that.
He is not. He just got passed. He won.
Bulls as Jordan has come up with another steal.
By Jordan, who has it on the break, driving all the way in. Oh, shot! An unbelievable goal!
Michael. Oh my goodness!
MJ wants to go down and post up. McIlvain over to double team. Michael underneath.
They get it to Jordan. Here's trouble. 3-on-3. Jordan in deep. Jordan all the way. Score!
Kid now throws it back to Michael. Caught on one hand from 15 off
The time at half court. Oh, go Jordan!
Get anything out of it at all.
Oh, great move. Oh, yes. Fires it down. Jordan with Ewing back. Jordan around Ewing.
And Pippen. 3 seconds. Jordan's force-up shot.
Oh, yes! Win.
About 95 million Americans watched live television news coverage of the low-speed chase involving O.J. Simpson. The bizarre sight of Mr. Simpson heading towards his home, with police officers trailing and onlookers cheering, was covered live for various periods by CBS, ABC, NBC, and CNN. Barry Sanders had an immediate impact in his rookie season, winning the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year award. In 1991, Sanders helped lead the Lions to their first postseason win since 1958. In 1994, Sanders was awarded the NFL Offensive Player of the Year award. Barry Sanders played 10 seasons for the Lions. He had 3,062 carries for 15,000 yards, 352 catches for 2,921 yards, and scored 109 touchdowns. In the 90s, there were many technological advancements, starting with the creation of the first web browser, the World Wide Web, in 1990. This meant that the internet could be accessed from various devices and operating systems. It meant that even the least involved people with technologies could access the web with only 2 clicks. Not only was the first web browser created, but also text messages. In 1992, when a developer, part of the SEMA Group Telecom, sent a text from his PC to his Nokia 1011, creating the first text message. One significant creation was the Sony PlayStation, created in 1994 by Sony PlayStation. This game console blew up because of its new 32-bit system that uses compact discs instead of cartridges. Following 1994 and 1995 was the creation of Amazon. It started as an online bookshop, and the business was getting big and fast. And now Amazon is one of the most popular online ordering companies in the world. The Palm Pilot in 1996 was the first wildly popular handheld computer.
In 1996, Mike Tyson challenged but lost to Evander Holyfield. In a 1997 rematch, he was disqualified for biting a piece off of Holyfield's ear, and his license was revoked. In 1999, Tyson regained his boxing license and returned to the ring.
A whopping 95 million people watched the O.J. Simpson trial.
If the glove don't fit, you must acquit.
The voice who announced "You've got mail" whenever you received an email was Elwood Edwards. He recorded the saying in his living room on a cassette deck. The 1990s was a time of non-visual expression. Fashion at this point was the most varied it had ever been, and most people were not afraid to experiment. The 90s saw a rise in secondhand clothes, thrifting, similar to what we're seeing today, and creating and modifying your clothes. Personal style ranged from the grungy aesthetic of Nirvana, ripped jeans, plaid jacket, homeless type look, the shiny, glamorous outfits of the Spice Girls. Celebrity fashion consisted of a dressed-down, preppy look, often pairing blazers and boxy dress shirts with jeans and boots. In streetwear, we saw the rise of a wider proportions and baggier clothes, which gave ways to brands like Janko Jeans, Stussy, and Fila. Subcultures such as skating, raving, and outdoor sports greatly influenced fashion, in the everyday person's appearance.
What's that? What? I just got word that people are starting to believe Furbies are spying on them.
No way.
Is it all a lie?
What?
I got the man, hit him with bait, rapping that slate.